The only thing those two guys knows about working people is how to work to take advantage of them. That's what they know.
The Democratic vice presidential candidate going on offense here in the West. His message to voters as pro-Palestinian protesters stop traffic on a major freeway in the run-up to his speech.
Tax dollars should be going toward education, infrastructure, housing, healthcare, you name it, right? And instead are being sent to drop bombs.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome to West Coast Wrap. I'm Alex Savage. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is on his own here in the West tonight. Vice President Harris's running mate made 2 solo campaign stops in Southern California today as pro-Palestinian protesters staged demonstrations not far away. We begin tonight's coverage of the political landscape heading toward Election Day with Fox 11's Matthew Seedorf.
And the next Vice President of the United States, Tim Walz.
Democratic Vice Presidential nominee Tim Walz in L.A. walking out to John Mellencamp's song, Small Town.
Wow.
The vice presidential hopeful giving his first solo speech Tuesday since becoming Kamala Harris's running mate.
I happen to be the first union member on a presidential ticket since Ronald Reagan.
The Minnesota governor, a guest speaker to more than 4,000 labor union delegates.
People in this room built the middle class.
Trying to appeal to the union's convention as a former teacher and union member himself.
When unions are strong, America's strong.
I'm loving the fact that he was an actual union member with one of us, and he's continuing to do some great things, and I feel we're headed in the right direction.
Donald Trump and J.D. Vance want to eliminate AFSCME and all public sector unions altogether.
Walz comparing he and Kamala's ticket to the Trump-Vance campaign.
I am damn proud of my service to this country.
Also responding to recent accusations of stolen valor.
You should never denigrate another person's service record.
Walz not answering any reporter questions. Now he's continuing his campaign trip to Orange County.
I would love to be able to talk to him about how important it is that you actually fund your police, not defund the police.
Newport Beach Mayor Will O'Neill voicing criticism to Walz's fundraising event, tickets costing donors between $1,000 and $100,000.
My hope is he will not just take their money, he'll take the policy ideas back with him.
You don't hope to win, you plan, prepare, and work to win.
The Democratic nominee for vice president kicking off a week of campaign fundraising events across the country.
When we fight, we win.
Reporting in downtown L.A., Matthew Seedorf, Fox 11 News.
And tomorrow, Governor Walz will travel to Colorado. He's planning to attend a campaign reception in Denver. Hours before Walz took the stage today, pro-Palestinian protesters tied up traffic in Los Angeles. They marched onto the 405 freeway, bringing traffic to a halt. Organizers of this protest say they decided to take action today for a reason.
Today is Tisha B'Av, which is the saddest day in the Jewish calendar. It's a day of immense Jewish sorrow, a commemoration of the destruction of our temple, as well as loss of life throughout history. Our tax dollars should be going toward education, infrastructure, housing, healthcare, you name it, right? And instead are being sent to drop bombs.
People who refused to disperse after getting a warning from law enforcement were taken into custody. Preparations are underway in Chicago as the city gears up for the Democratic National Convention coming up next week. After the assassination attempt on former President Trump during a rally in Pennsylvania, the Secret Service says this event, like last month's Republican National Convention, will have their highest level of security.
But as far as comparing Butler to a national special security event, you can't compare it. This is a whole of government approach. We've been planning for this convention for well over a year, so we can't compare the two.
Hundreds of police officers from neighboring states are on their way now to Chicago to help out as thousands of people are expected to protest the handling of the war in Gaza. Vice President Harris has said now is the time to get a ceasefire deal done and bring home Israeli hostages who are still being held by Hamas. Another powerful union is taking aim at former President Trump after his conversation on X last night with Elon Musk. The United Auto Workers Union has filed federal labor charges against those two men for what it called union-busting comments. Have a listen.
You're the greatest cutter I mean, I look at what you do. You walk in and you just say, you want to quit? They go on strike. I won't mention the name of the company, but they go on strike and you say, that's okay, you're all gone.
The right to strike is protected under federal labor law. Sonoma State University political science professor David McEwen says Trump's remarks are signs of a candidate losing his footing.
What is that way forward for them, and what's the message going to be? It needs to be about the economy. It needs to be about crime, immigration. They know that, and the professional people around him know that. They just haven't been able to get past their candidate to keep him on message.
The National Labor Relations Board said it would investigate those complaints against the Trump campaign and Tesla. A senior advisor with the Trump campaign called the allegations frivolous and a shameless political stunt. Former President Trump is planning to discuss the economy tomorrow during a trip to Asheville, North Carolina. He'll wrap up the week with a rally in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, coming up on Saturday. President Biden was in New Orleans today to promote his Cancer Moonshot initiative that aims to reduce deaths from cancer. The president also spoke briefly to reporters about the growing turmoil in both the Middle East and Ukraine. He says he hasn't given up on the possibility of a ceasefire, even as Iran threatens to attack Israel over its alleged assassination of a top Hamas leader.
Getting hard. We'll see what Iran does, and we'll see what happens if there's any attack. But I'm not giving up.
The Pentagon is predicting Iran and its proxy groups could launch a major attack on Israel within the next 24 hours. Today, the State Department announced it approved a $20 billion weapons sale to Israel. Los Angeles police have released new video showing what led up to an officer shooting and killing a teenager from the San Francisco Bay Area who was on vacation in Southern California. 18-year-old Ricardo Ramirez Jr., who's from Richmond, was unarmed when he was shot by the LAPD sergeant who was in plain clothes. It happened back on July 13th. Surveillance footage shows Ramirez approaching an unmarked police car that had been following the car he and his friends were riding in. The undercover sergeant, Sergeant Michael Pounds, fired through the window of his car, striking Ramirez once in the chest. You can see Ramirez collapse in the street. Police say the sergeant had been following Ramirez's car after witnessing them get into a dispute with people in another car. Ramirez's family has filed a wrongful death claim against the LAPD, and they're calling for the state attorney general to file criminal charges against the officer.
I want justice, I want the police officer arrested for murdering my son. He shot him for no reason. He just pulled out his gun and shot him. Didn't even give him a chance.
The officer could have reached for a couple of things. One was his badge and one was his gun. One of them would have let Ricky know it was a police officer. The other one just let him know he's about to die.
Ramirez had traveled to L.A. with friends to celebrate their high school graduation. Police say that Ramirez was wearing a ski mask as he approached the unmarked police car, but that's something his family's attorney disputes. The LAPD also released police body camera video showing how officers responded after the shooting. A department spokeswoman commented on the case in a YouTube post.
We are still at the very early stages of this investigation, which can often take up to a year to complete, and our understanding of this incident may change as this additional evidence is collected, analyzed, and reviewed.
The LAPD says it will not make a determination about whether the officer followed the law until all the facts are known in this case. No weapons were recovered during the initial investigation at the scene of that shooting. 3 former jail guards in the San Francisco Bay Area pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter charges today in the beating death of a mentally challenged inmate. KTVU's Jesse Gary reports tonight they could receive credit for time already served in jail and be free within the next 12 months.
Today was a victory for the vulnerable and the voiceless. We brought some finality, some measure of justice to Michael Tyree's family, as well as our entire community.
Inside a crowded Hall of Justice courtroom Tuesday, 3 convicted former jail guards admitted to killing inmate Michael Tyree. But the second-degree murder conviction for Jerry Lubrin, Matt Ferris, and Rafael Rodriguez is now a conviction for 1 count of voluntary manslaughter.
Looks like a win-win for the district attorney's office. They guarantee that these guards will go to prison for a voluntary manslaughter for the longest period of time. I think it was a way for the district attorney to hedge their bet.
The case dates back to the August 2015 jailhouse beating death of Michael Tyree. Tyree was a mentally challenged man being held on misdemeanors until space at a treatment facility became available.
All of us thought, well, it's safe to have him in jail until there's a treatment bed open. But in fact, it wasn't safe to have him in jail, because that's where he was killed.
Prosecutors proved the trio savagely beat Tyree to death as he screamed and begged for his life. However, a new state law reversed the convictions for second-degree murder in the case that was partially based on the natural and probable causes doctrine.
The legislature did apply it retroactively to all prior cases. So these three guards were not the only beneficiaries of this change in the law. Many people came back from second-degree murder sentences and got resentenced or got a new trial based on this change in the law.
In court, the three admitted to killing Tyree with, quote, conscious disregard for human life. They waived any rights for jury trial and were sentenced to 11 years in prison. They've already served 7 years and were released last month to finish out that sentence under home confinement. With time served, and assuming they don't violate the law, they could be freed in the next year.
Perhaps a little ray of light emerged from Michael Tyree's night of darkness.
District Attorney Jeff Rosen makes that statement because of the many reforms that were put in place inside the jail following the Tyree case. The three former jail guards who are now convicted of voluntary manslaughter will be back in court October 22nd for sentencing. Outside the Hall of Justice, Jesse Gary, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
Coming up tonight here on West Coast Wrap, lightning strikes 2 people in Arizona. Tonight, investigators explain how this likely happened.
And in weather, here's our live camera in Southern California for Los Angeles. The current temperature in the upper 70s, 77 degrees. We'll have the updated forecast coming up.
Also coming up tonight, police respond to an unusual call for help. We'll show you how they came to the rescue of a man who was worried that he would never get home.
Well, you guys are lifesavers.
A 3-year-old girl is recovering tonight after she was mauled by a black bear as she slept inside a tent in Montana. This attack happened late Sunday at a campground just north of Yellowstone National Park. The bear, believed to have been involved, was captured and shot yesterday. Fish, Wildlife and Parks investigators say they found a cooler and food inside that tent where the attack happened. They recommend that campers keep food, garbage, and anything with a scent outside of tents and stored in bear-resistant containers or vehicles. A GoFundMe post showing a child recovering suggests that the injured child's name is Madison. A woman who says she is the girl's mother created this page to raise money for medical and transportation bills. And we do have a link to those fundraising efforts up at our website. That's westcoastwrap.com. People who live in Vancouver, Washington are on alert tonight after several people reported seeing a cougar roaming around in the Fruit Valley neighborhood. A spokesperson for the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife says there were unconfirmed sightings on Saturday and Sunday. One man says his doorbell camera caught the cougar walking right through his yard.
I was awake and had just let the dog out 5 minutes prior. We hear the other dog bark and just goes directly to our bedroom window. And then Cat just walked down the street through the other yard.
The Department of Fish and Wildlife says its enforcement and wildlife teams are investigating, but they have not been able to locate a cougar. Authorities continue monitoring this area, and they're urging people to report any new sightings. 2 people remain hospitalized tonight after being struck by lightning in northern Arizona. Images posted online show crews responding to yesterday's emergency near the Utah border. Both victims are women in their 20s, and their conditions are unknown tonight. They were visiting the Glen Canyon National Recreation Area when they were struck. National Park Service workers say rapidly changing weather conditions are more common at this time of year during monsoon season, and they stress it's important that people seek shelter whenever storms begin to cross areas that are exposed. For more, we are going to bring in now KTVU meteorologist Mark Tamayo, who is tracking the threat of new storms across the west. Mark, how do we look?
Hi there, Alex. Yeah, as you can see on the satellite and the radar, this has been an active stretch here for this portion of the west coast out toward portions of Arizona and Utah. You can see all those showers and thunderstorms flaring up linked up with the radar as well. There's still some instability in the forecast for tomorrow. In fact, these are all the storm reports over the past 24 hours from portions of Utah, as you can see here now, toward parts of Colorado. As we check out the Pacific Northwest here, there's a little system here, a little dip in the jet stream. That's a circulation producing a lot of clouds and even a few scattered showers for portions of Washington today. This was the scene today in Seattle. Lots of cloud cover. Temperatures, remember last week we were talking about heat advisories. Today in the lower 70s, 71 degrees. In the San Francisco Bay Area, the fog actually cleared out. Lots of sunshine. You can see looking out towards San Francisco, the temperature of 70 degrees. And then in Arizona, some scattered high clouds out there. Of course, temperatures topping 100 degrees, 109 degrees this afternoon. Current numbers out there right now, it is 101 in Las Vegas, 67 in Salt Lake City, up in Seattle it's 67, in San Francisco downtown 64, Los Angeles reporting 71 degrees. Here's the plan for tomorrow for your Wednesday. Partly sunny. This is the system we're watching up toward the Seattle area. This will be on the move. Now, as a result, temperatures will gradually warm up a few degrees. In San Francisco, some areas of fog. It's warm. And then it's warm to hot out toward Phoenix, as you would expect. 80s in Southern California, and maybe some thunderstorm chances out in the Denver area once again for tomorrow. In terms of the forecast for your Wednesday, as you can see once again, it looks like the bulk of the active weather will be moving into portions of Colorado, but out across the west, we just have some cloud cover out there, especially coastside, with some clearing into the afternoon hours. Here you can see a few cities out toward Olympia, Washington tomorrow in the upper 70s, partly sunny skies. San Jose in the Bay Area, lower 80s. Palmdale in Southern California, upper 90s. And Tucson will be flirting with 100 degrees for tomorrow afternoon. Here's what you can expect over the next few days, over the next 3 days. Seattle temperatures will be in the 70s, a sun-cloud mix. San Francisco, some patchy fog in the morning, clearing out into the afternoon hours. Lots of 80s for Los Angeles and Denver. They have the chance of some afternoon thunderstorms. And then out toward the Phoenix area, temperatures once again 108, 111, 112 degrees. So still talking about some heat, and we'll keep an eye on those thunderstorm chances that could develop across parts of the west for tomorrow afternoon.
All right, Mark, thank you. Coming up tonight here on West Coast Wrap, an unexpected act of kindness in Colorado. Tonight, see how 2 police officers made one man's day. Also, we'll take you to a music school of sorts in Utah, see how people learn to make instruments here instead of how to play them. Dr. Dre helped launch a new high school academy in Southern California. The music mogul, whose real name is Andre Young, kicked off the Iveen and Young Center Academy alongside his longtime business partner, Jimmy Iveen of Interscope Records. The goal is to create a school with a cutting-edge curriculum that includes classes in design, technology, and entrepreneurship.
Inglewood's up to some good, according to So Dre loves Inglewood. We will love Inglewood, and we waited for the first opportunity because we wanted to make sure we came here. We believe that this will differentiate them in the workforce and in colleges. To go out and say you have an education in interdisciplinary learning and being able to collaborate with different disciplines and innovate is an advantage.
Ninth graders will be able to attend the Iveen and Young Center starting next summer, with the school eventually expanding to 9th through 12th grade. A shop in Salt Lake City is celebrated as the oldest violin making school in the country. Fox's Mark Blaine explains how the store has been passing on this niche knowledge since 1972.
I think most of us in the industry aspire to being a master violinist.
I'm Mark Blaine at downtown Salt Lake City. Did you know the city is home to a world-renowned violin making school? Who knew? It's right here on the southeast corner of 200 South and 300 East.
There's some mystery about violin makers, like how they even do that.
Well, that's where the owner-director of the Violin Making School of America, Sung Hoon Lee, comes in. A former student himself at the school, he left his home country of Korea to study the violin-making craft under the legendary Peter Prier, who founded the school in 1972. Lee says the school's reputation attracts students from all walks of life, and no music experience is required.
It is not necessary you have to know something about violin making or music theory or performance, anything at all. We can teach you how to become a violin maker.
The school's program is normally 3 years. Eunice Refsko of Denmark is a third-year student and gets the Career Change Award. He holds a PhD in nuclear physics and was working at a nuclear physics lab in Vancouver when he decided during the pandemic that he needed to chase his true passion.
And I think when I was a teenager, I think the idea of becoming a violin maker had sort of popped into my mind, but I sort of rejected it because, I don't know, like it wasn't serious enough or something. Like I felt I had to be like an academic or something. But then it sort of resurfaced, and I thought, okay.
And part of the curriculum, if students don't already know, they're offered lessons on how to actually play the instrument. Attention to detail and concentration are some of the traits needed to become a top-notch violin maker, and the process can be rewarding in some unexpected ways.
A lot of the steps are very meditative. It's like you're just looking at something and comparing and just making very intentional moves with what you're doing. So I just find a kind of peace in doing that.
And on that note, Eunice, play us out. Mark Blaine, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Yeah, just fascinating to see how those violins are crafted. All right, Burning Man is now just 2 weeks away, but tickets for the big event in the Nevada desert are still available, which is unusual. Burning Man tickets usually are purchased as soon as they're released, but last year, you probably remember, heavy rain and thick mud stranded many festival goers for days on end, and in all likelihood, that hurt this year's ticket sales. We should let you know that Burning Man is going to run from August 25th all the way through September 2nd there in the Black Rock Desert in northern Nevada. Finally tonight, body camera video shows police officers in Boulder, Colorado responding to an unusual call for help.
Well, you guys are lifesavers. That's all we do, man.
And this was the scene last week. Two officers rushed to an elderly man who was calling for help when his motorized wheelchair stopped running near a store. When those officers got to the man, they decided to push him home. The trek back home involved pushing the man uphill for 2 blocks, then getting him inside the building's elevator, then pushing him down a hallway and getting him all the way inside his apartment. The officers say they were just happy to help out a member of the community. But clearly, those officers going above and beyond in this case. That is great to see. All right, that does it for West Coast Wrap tonight. We appreciate you watching as always. And another reminder before we go here, you can stay up to date on all the stories we're covering across the West Coast at our website. It's westcoastwrap.com. You can also stream all of our shows for free on your smart TV. All you have to do is download the Fox Local app. We will leave you here tonight with a beautiful look at downtown San Francisco. Have a great night.